Hello and welcome to another edition of Community Forum. My name is Joseph Feaster. I'm the host of the program. And I'm going to just let you know that I don't sound like this all the time, but like many of you, I have a cold, but Roy Cohen tells me to come and do my job, and that's what I'm doing here today. And I trust that I will be a little bit quieter than I normally am and allow my guests to say more because I don't want to cough through the program for you. But I want to say to you, as I always do, this is going to be another exciting program. With me today are two guests who are part of an organization which came together recognizing that the diversity of Stoughton has changed over the years. And an organization was formed of concerned citizens, and I have two of them in the studio with me today to talk to you about the Stoughton Diversity and Inclusion Organization. They're going to tell you how they got started, why they got started, talk about some of the demographics here in the town of Stoughton, as well as some of the programs that they have had over the past 2.5 years and what they have planned for the future. So let me welcome my guests here today. Deborah Roberts, who is the chair of the Stoughton Diversity and Inclusion Committee, and Teresa Tapper, who is the executive member and clerk of the Stoughton Development Inclusion Organization. Welcome to Community Forum.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Thank you for having us.
Well, you know, I always, first I'm going to tell, since you gave me your bios, I'm going to read them a bit just to let folks know that, you know, we have at least two individuals here, and you'll talk about the other members that serve with you, who have been long time committed and involved in what goes on here in the town of Stoughton. And I'll start with you, Deborah, because, you know, we've served together as a town meeting rep. You have continued on as such. You are now on the Finance and Taxation Committee. You've been a Stoughton Board of Assessor and member and served as the clerk and as vice chair of the Capital and Financial Planning Committee. You have an MBA with a concentration in finance from my alma mater, Northeastern University, and a graduate certificate in banking and financial services from Northeastern University. You've been in management, progressive management, for over 20 years, and as well, you have been a more than 32-year resident of Stoughton. So you must have come when you were about a year old. But in any event, in terms of 32-year member here, and you've been volunteering throughout all of that time. Next to you is, as I mentioned, Teresa Tapper, who is an executive board member as well as the clerk, and as he told me, clerk two, because there's two clerks, of SDIO. You know, beside working as a health clinician at the Stoughton Youth Commission, Teresa is a licensed mental health clinician. She is a military veteran, town meeting representative, Stoughton Cultural Council member, and a member of course, SDIO. She has been a longtime resident of Stoughton. She didn't give me the number of years, so I'm not going to try and calculate.
Basically, about the same
But
time.
in terms of, I'll say 30 plus years here in Stoughton. I had the pleasure of being the speaker at one of your initial events that you had when you, almost 2.5 years, I guess Martin Luther King in day in 2018. But why don't we talk about, you know, what gave the genesis of having this, and I'm going to say SDIO, folks. You know, I said I'm going to try and not use this voice that has a cold today. So I'm going to just say SDIO. You now know that it means Stoughton Diversity Inclusion Organization. So what is SDIO? And if I need to go to slides, tell me that. If we're going to bring up some information, et cetera, we're going to do that. But I think Teresa was going to start by telling us what was the mission and who some of the members are.
Right.
So if we have that slide, Roy, if there's anything that brings up the mission statement, that would be great.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead.
Well, as he's trying to locate that, why don't we go ahead, Teresa.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and just read the mission statement, and then the slide will come up, and you'll be able to see the mission statement. So our mission statement, which was formulated by our board and our board members, is the following. The concept of diversity and inclusion encompasses acceptance and respect for the dignity of all. It is about understanding each other and moving beyond simple tolerance to embracing, celebrating, and sharing our diversity. We celebrate the peaceful exchange of ideas from multiple perspectives.
And I know you have a vision statement which is very, very long, and
Right.
Folks can go online and obviously see what
Right.
your vision statement is, but
Yeah.
why don't you tell listeners who are some of the people who serve with you?
Well, besides Deborah and myself, Steve Tapper, who does happen to be my husband, is the vice chair, and Erda Murrell is the treasurer. John Gunning is also another one of our clerks, and Frank Mendoza and Larry Sauer are also board members.
Great. So, came together in the spring of 2017, felt that this was an issue because, as I mentioned, the diversity of Stoughton has changed. I know for a fact it's somewhere around 14% African American, and there's other diverse groups that are in here. I know you have some of the numbers, Deborah, as do I. But maybe we can talk about exactly why SDIO was formed, some of the things that you've done, and would that require us to bring up your slide presentation?
Yes, please. Yes.
All right. Well, Roy, bring up the slide presentation.
And also, when we talk about the founding of the Stoughton Diversity and Inclusion, Teresa and I would also like to say what our specific interest is in the organization.
Yeah, well, in terms, you have an opportunity to talk all about that. Let's put the folks in context because they would like to know exactly, how you came about, and that's
Right.
what we will bring up. So, any chance of that PowerPoint? If not, we're going to have a chance to have you just
This is
get your.
currently, this is showing one of our events. Sorry.
Yeah,
Joseph.
I know that's one of the events.
Dance Around the World.
Yeah, that's the
Around the
Dance Around the World event, and we may, well, since it's up to you, let's talk about that for a minute. What was that a particular event, and when was it held?
Well, this has turned into becoming an annual event. So it's meant for people of all ages. And as you can see, it has really brought together people of all ages and even abilities. So it's been really a wonderful program. It's usually held in the spring, and we have been able to get funding from our local arts cultural councils, so plug to and a thank you to them. So this is just showing one of the dances that was a circle dance.
Next
really
slide.
fun.
This event is?
This was an event that took place last February during Black History Month, and it was focusing on Frederick Douglass. So you can see it was well attended by, again, all ages.
Next slide.
This is a sample of when we were preparing for one of our MLK Day of Service events. We had people, again, of all ages who just filled out, what is their dream and their vision for Stoughton. So this is one sample. I have a dream that each of us will truly treat others in the way that we wish to be treated.
So Deborah, why don't you talk a little bit about, hold that slide there, let's talk about the MLK event. We'll get into why the organization was founded since we're moving ahead into some of this, some of our presentation here. So what is the MLK Day of Service? What is the MLK event? Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, the MLK Day of Service program is one of our marquee events. And this is an event that shows how we partner with the Stoughton Clergy Association and how we collaborate with other organizations throughout the community. So that is the big focus for the event, along with us getting all ages involved in the program.
So what do you exactly do on that particular day when you say Stoughton Day of Service? What is the service part that's done?
The service part is, number one, if we have donations, we donate funds to the local pantries. We have different programs like arts and crafts. We've even watched movies that are dedicated to MLK, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, or to different issues of suffrage and just to bring awareness.
I know in previous years, and I don't know if that's the case, wasn't there in terms of the food pantry piece of giving out to canned food, Teresa?
So I do want to say that years ago, this was an established, the Day of Service was established initially by the Stoughton Clergy Association. So then once the Stoughton Diversity and Inclusion Organization formed, we approached the Stoughton Clergy Association and said that we'd really like to be able to collaborate on the MLK Day of Service. So it was really the Day of Service based on what Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King really wanted to promote. We should be giving back. We should be working together, and at least have one day set aside where we come together and do some kind of community service project. So Stoughton Clergy Association had already established, holding some type of program and service, and then having the food banks, the food pantries, raising funds and getting some canned goods and stuff for the
Now,
food
which
pantries.
food pantries? I know there are certain ones that you would donate the food and all the funds to.
Yeah.
Which ones were those?
Well, we have there's two local food pantries, so it would actually come in and then be split up
Between
evenly.
who are the two local students? Do you know the names that anyone recalls? Well, anyway, there's two
Actually, I
of them,
can't
and they
remember
are
the names
located
of
right
them.
here in Stoughton.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep.
So in terms of, again, to our viewing audience, they have an opportunity as well. I know sometime I read in the Penny Saver request for the food pantry.
Right.
Those are the ones that you're speaking of. Is that correct,
Correct.
Teresa?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, along with that, I know when I talked about the program in 2018, because it seemed like you, Deborah, under your leadership during that time, you expanded the programmatic aspect of that particular day. Let's talk a little bit about the Martin Luther King celebration that you had in 2018, and I know we might as well talk about what we have plans for 2020.
2020.
And
2019.
You can talk about 2018, 19, and 20, if you wish.
all together. So we can do that jointly, Teresa and I, but the theme is all are welcome. This is diversity and inclusion organization, and everyone is welcome, and this is, the MLK event is no charge to anyone. We like to have a historical component in our program, and we also like to invite the students to participate. We've had we've had essay contests, and I tell you, there's so much talent in this town. Am I missing anything? So much talent in this town. The students' participation, and in 2020, it's going to be even grander.
Right.
Well, you can now. I'm not going to let you walk past all the great speakers that you have.
Yeah, I know. That's right.
I'm not that modest.
brilliant.
My voice may not be working well today, but my brain is definitely.
We'll go for it, Joe.
No. I want you to tell it. I don't want them to think that I'm bragging about it.
And actually, I highly recommend people look up the past MLK Day of Service events, because they were beautiful, and I do think that you did a brilliant job.
Did a brilliant job.
So,
Well, in terms
yes.
of, we had last. I
Yes.
was in 2018. There was a reverend that was in 2019. That was Reverend from the church.
the Universalist Church.
Yes,
That's
Universalist
Sarah.
Church, and your one for 2020 is going to be my good friend and former
Michael Curry.
Boston branch NAACP president Michael Curry.
Michael Curry.
And then Father Joe will be, actually what we're doing this year, 2020, is going to be, there'll be an interfaith service at the Immaculate Conception Church, and Father Joe is taking the lead on that. And then we're following the service. There's going to be a peace procession So we're going to encourage people to, join hands and walk from the Immaculate Conception Church to our new Stoughton High School, and then we'll continue a program there that will be complete with a keynote speaker, and then people of all ages are going to be joining us, and there'll be some songs, some poetry, some really special events there, and also some service projects as well. So,
well, since we're there, why don't we go ahead?
I just wanted to add, if there is inclement weather, then we're not going to have the walk. We will have the call it a rally at the new high school. So we'll skip the part, but we'll have it at the new high school.
Well, let's give some time since we've already fast forwarded to 2020. What is the date? What is the time?
Yeah. Okay, so it's Monday, January 20th, and the interfaith service will be at 10:30 a.m. and then followed by, we do hope, we're praying to have nice enough weather so that we can walk peacefully together, have a peace procession, and that is scheduled for 11:30 a.m. and then we'll meet at the high school, and then the program there will begin at 12. So.
All right. Roy, if you can bring up a slide, bring up something, we'll talk about whatever you bring up at this point. Not sure exactly. Okay, this is, I think I know which event that is, but Deborah or Teresa, tell us what this event is.
Well, we recently we had been invited to the State House to meet with our state senator, Walter Timothy, and we were very excited to be able to meet with him and share some of our ideas and our events, and actually ask him for some help with some of and some support as well. He has attended our events as best he can. The other thing is that we had initially been invited because he has done some work celebrating and recognizing Rosa Parks, and I don't know if you want to say anything about that, Deborah.
Yes, so he had legislation, I think that was in year 2018, of Rosa Parks, celebrating or recognizing Rosa Parks. And while we were at the meeting, we did primarily talk about two things. One was funding, so bringing funding to the town of Stoughton, funding to our organization, and we talked about expanding the Rosa Parks legislation to include some type of recognition in the Senate chambers. So currently it's signage on local buses, but Senator Timothy agreed to expand that legislation. So now something will be done in recognition in the Senate chambers.
Well, I can say, Teresa, you say that the senator has attended some of it, and he has been a good representative, and I remember he was there in both 2018 and 2019. Right. He, along with Representative Kafka, Representative Galvin, I know our school committee members have been present at both of those events, and I believe, if I stand correctly, our current was, I believe Robin was at the one in I think she was at the one in 2019. I'm not sure, I can't remember the one at the church, but nonetheless, we've had our town officials, we've had Board of Selectmen that have been there, have been there in the past. So, and I've just seen it grow. I mean, and I have to applaud each of you and your fellow members for doing this. It requires a lot of work. I even have, I'm fortunate enough to get the information about what you're doing, so therefore I know the meetings you're having, the discussions. What I will say to our viewing audience, we'll talk about it towards the end of the program, this organization can use your financial support. So as you're thinking about your year-end giving, they'll tell you a way in which you can contribute to SDIO. I don't know if they're set up to take credit cards, but they'll definitely take checks, and cash is always welcome. We have done some of the things which I think it started in 2018. We've taken up a collection during the service on behalf of it, and much of that has gone to both the Clergy Association and SDIO. So this is a good cause, and we're going to go now to the slide presentation. So Deborah, so you can be able to walk us through that. This again, I guess, is the that was the event in 2019, was it not?
That was
Yes.
correct.
Yeah, that was at the church.
That was at Trinity.
At Trinity. Okay, that was at Trinity Church.
Every year, a different faith-based community hosts the.
Well, they
that
have
part
been.
of
In
it.
church, you know, that may stay the case, that may not be in the future, but in any event, we've had Stoughton location, because as you grow, you're
Right.
going to need different venues in order to deal with the overflow crowd. So, you know, again, I'm sure you make some conscious decisions at that appropriate time. We're working our way through the slides, so we'll just keep going until we get to the one we want.
Right.
But that's okay. Let's talk about this one here.
This is, we were marching with the other community leaders in the Stoughton 4th of July parade. We had such a great time. It was well attended.
Yeah, and
So-
if anybody saw us while we were walking, we were also singing and chanting SDIO. We're the group you want to know. So,
I'm trying to
Join
recognize
us.
who some of the folks are, but the camera's in my way. But it's good. I mean, you have been so much engaged and involved in your short becoming an organization. You've been very much engaged and involved. Next slide. And this is what?
Stoughton celebrates diversity.
Now, is that a logo or a banner or something that you have, Teresa and Deborah?
This is one of our original logos that we had on our posters and brochure.
Yeah, but we do have a banner which states the same thing. We always want to promote diversity and inclusion, and we want people to know that we are here and that we are a welcoming community.
I remember, and I have in my house a post, you know, I bought a lawn sign of the one. If we can go back to that other slide for one moment, back to that slide for a moment, that this was wasn't this made into some type of a lawn sign or a post? I know I have that in my.
Yeah, actually we had different lawn sign that we were distributing, but this is actually a wordsmith that is based on our mission statement.
Okay.
So, and as you can see, our mission statement very much is all about diversity and inclusion. Is the most important. Those are the most important.
And having a peaceful exchange of ideas.
All right.
Because
So
you can see our board members are diverse.
Well, as we talk about it, there was a phrase that the late Lenny Zakem, who was the head of the Anti-Defamation League, and I had served with me with the Greater Boston Civil Rights Coalition, used to say, we can agree to disagree, but not be disagreeable.
Right, beautifully
so
said.
that's it seems like that encompasses some of the thinking of SDIO as well.
Absolutely.
So, have we been successful in bringing up the PowerPoint? We'll know in a moment. Deborah, I'm gonna start begging and
Here
pleading.
it is.
All right.
Yay, we did it.
Boy, in terms of
Okay.
So-
that guy Roy Cohen is just something else. I just love him.
He's
to
such
death.
a wonderful guy. But this front page, the diversity and inclusion,
I'll
it
go
shows
back.
us that our focus is three-pronged: events, response, and representation. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We've talked about the event part, representation and response kind of go hand in hand. So if you could just flip to the next slide. And these are our agenda for today. We talked about our mission statement. We talked about some of the events that we have sponsored and supported. And we're almost at the point of what our future initiatives are, and then some of the demographics of the town.
Well, you haven't really talked about when you got started and why.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about the mission, we talked about who's involved. You know, you wanted to talk about why you individually, you and Teresa both decided to become involved in SDIO. So let's do that. We would, you know, we can work backwards. You know,
Okay.
it's our show.
It's our show.
It's our show. We can do it any way we want.
That's
so
great.
why don't we talk about that? Why don't we go into, you know, why it got started
Look, if you
and
can
all
hit
that.
to the next slide, and then I could talk to that.
Okay.
So basically, the Stoughton Diversity and Inclusion Organization was founded specifically April of 2017. And at that time, we saw that there was a growing population of minorities, but the employee base was not growing at that same pace. So when I say employee, that is the town, the public school, public safety, and first responders. So we're going to talk about some of our initiatives in that area a little bit later. But the second point is that according to the Massachusetts Executive Office of Public and Safety, they gave us a report of year 2017, and they indicated that hate crimes in the state of Massachusetts, so let's be clear, in the state of Massachusetts increased about 9.2%, and that's comparing year 2017 to year 2016. Now, I also want to say that Chief Donna McNamara said Stoughton is safe. Stoughton is safe. So with that said, Stoughton Diversity and Inclusion Organization wanted to be proactive. We wanted to see that there is representation and
also we wanted to respond to incidents that would be coming up or had come up, because the initial, you know, unfortunately in the spring of 2017, some community members wanted to come together to talk about there had been some anti-Semitism that had been that had occurred.
Was that the ones with the swastikas in the schools?
Correct.
Yes.
So that is what initiated the very first meeting, was to come together. Several community members had wanted to come together and see what could be done about that, as well as, you know, the other points that Deborah had brought up, just the sense that people were becoming a little bit more concerned about, in general, about anti-immigrant, you know, and
so would it be fair to say that over the course of the, and we'll get into the specifics around the hiring quotas and numbers here in Stoughton, both in the town and the schools, but so it would say the genesis of this was just a recognition that statewide and or nationally, hate crimes were increasing in 2016,
right.
2017.
Yeah.
That there were some incidents which occurred here in Stoughton, and you as concerned citizens
right.
felt that you needed to bring some light to that particular issue, form it, but also try to provide a forum for exchange of ideas
Right.
in a non-confrontational way. Would that be
right? That sums it up. Yes.
Would that be, you know, a correct statement of exactly what some of the thinking was when you initiated SDIO?
That's true.
And I think again we're going to be talking about, you know, I know you talked about some of the programs that you had, but there's someone here which were not mentioned. So maybe either of you would want to run through what some of the folks you've collaborated with, because that's one of the things you talked about, and some of the specific programs you had. So either you, Deborah, or Teresa want to talk about some of the additional activities?
Well, I would like to talk about the collaboration, because I think that, and the partnership. So we talked a lot about the partnership with the Stoughton Diversity, Stoughton Clergy Association, and that's very important to us. But we also do a collaboration with a lot of organizations. So one is the Old Colony YMCA. Actually, we have our monthly meetings at the YMCA. We've collaborated with the Stoughton Public Schools on several occasions, the Stoughton Chamber of Commerce, the NAACP, Blue Hills affiliate chapter, Stoughton Senior and Council on Aging and the Youth Center. So those are a lot of the, Stoughton Public Library, don't let me leave them out, because they are very supportive of the organization, and we are of them as well.
Teresa, did you have something to add?
I just wanted to put a plug in. You know, the town in general has been very supportive and welcomed, invited us. We were invited in to do a brief presentation at one of the selectmen meetings, and that was by the selectmen, and then our town manager also also echoed the support for our, and I actually work for the town and work for the youth commission, so a lot of our initial, we've often held some of our programming and our meetings, our monthly meetings at the youth commission and council on aging building too. So I do think that the town has done a really fine job of supporting this organization.
Just wanted, before I go to our sponsors, what I would like to do is to have you, because I keep saying it and I haven't called on you to do it, why did you individually decide to become a part of it? I'll give you an opportunity to tell our viewing audience, why this is important to you, why are you devoting time to this particular issue? You both have your own jobs, your own responsibility, your other interests. So why did you decide to become involved with STIO? I'll start with you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Well, my primary focus is to increase the representation to have a diverse population in the school, town hall, public safety. I truly believe that having a diverse base gives a more comprehensive outlook in the decision-making process. Also, the diversity of these departments that I mentioned, it helps with if we have language barriers and cultural barriers. And then another reason is having an increase in diversity in these departments is a good role model for our youth. So I guess those are really the three main reasons why I think that it's important that we increase the diversity in the school, the town, public safety.
Teresa?
Well, as I had referenced before, my husband is Jewish, and I've raised my children here. When the anti-Semitism had occurred in 2017, I spoke to my husband about this and said, just on a personal basis, I mean, I work for the town, and I actually, I like to really get involved in doing anything that's going to be positive and build toward having a safe, healthy community for our youth and our families. But also just on a personal level, I wanted to address that issue in particular and make sure that that our community became like a welcoming community, and I felt that I needed to personally be involved, which is why both Steve and I have stepped in and really from the very beginning wanted to be on the board as well. And then and I'm very fortunate because I have that dual role of actually being a licensed mental health clinician and working for the town of Stoughton. Thank you very much. And so I was given, very strong thumbs up. Yes, this would be a good thing to be involved in. So.
Well, I enjoy your husband's playing of his instruments at all
so
of the MLK performances and elsewhere. So please thank him personally for me for those efforts. So
can I also add another point? As we were talking about from a race and religion perspective, but I also want to talk from a gender perspective, being a black female. Well, when you look at the number of Black-owned businesses or the number of female-owned businesses in the town of Stoughton, I would like to see an increase in the number of female-owned businesses in the town. We have about roughly 1,500, according to the census, the latest census of year 2018, 1,500 male-owned businesses in the town of Stoughton, about 900 female-owned businesses in the town. And it would be nice to see more female-owned businesses in the town.
Well, we're going to get to those statistics that you have. I know you have that on the slides, but for the moment, as anything, to keep this program going, our sponsors are so supportive. So I think we'll go to our sponsors, and we'll be right back, and we'll discuss some of those statistics around the hiring in the town and the schools, some of the broader statistics as far as the demographics here in Stoughton, and of course, we're going to be talking about how can people help and join and become members of SDIO. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Roy Cohen. The crew would like to thank Maxie's Delicatessen, located at 117 Sharon Street in Stoughton. You can reach them by calling 781-341-1662. The American Cancer Society is looking for volunteers to drive cancer patients to and from treatments. You can volunteer by calling 1-800-ACS-6662 or online at www.cancer.org. Ilsa Mark's Food Pantry and St. Anthony's Free Market is located at 2 Park Avenue in Stoughton. For more information, call Christine Gallagher at 781-341-0611 or 781-341-0549. To get involved with Meals on Wheels, call Jessica at 781-344-8882, extension 2. The Stoughton Penny Saver. Our business is advertising your business in Stoughton. To advertise, call 781-344-4833. Community Forum showtimes here in Stoughton. You can see it on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays at 6 p.m., Monday at 8 p.m., Tuesday at 5 p.m., either on Comcast Channel 9 or Verizon Channel 28. If you have any comments or suggestions, contact us at communityforum1@yahoo.com. Samaritans, 41 West Street, 4th floor in Boston, Massachusetts, 02111, or call them at 617-536-2460. The 24-hour helplines, 877-870-HOPE or 877-870-4673. Samaritans, 800-252-TEEN or 800-252-8336, or online www.samaritans.hope.org. For you bingo players, I want to tell you about the Monday night bingo being held at the Ahava Torah Congregation, 1179 Central Street in Stoughton. The doors open at 4:30 p.m. The games start at 6:30 p.m. You come on down and win some money. They have 2 big prizes. One is $1,199 and the other one is up to $3,000. So come on down.
My guests today are from the Stoughton Diversity and Inclusion Organization, the chair, Deborah Roberts, the executive board member, Teresa Tapper. If you want to know more about them or to contact them, you can do so by emailing them at stoughtondiversity@gmail.com. You can go on their website, or maybe that's something else.
Facebook.
Maybe that's in terms of I can't think about what it's called, but it's at Stoughton Diversity Inclusion. It's probably something the young people will know. I don't.
Facebook.
Facebook, okay, on Facebook, Stoughton Diversity Inclusion. And you can write to them care of the Stoughton Youth Commission, 10 Pearl Street, Stoughton, Massachusetts, 02072. Well, we are back from our break, and before I go much further, I'm going to wait. I wanted to say some greetings to folks, etc., but I think it's more important. So, Deborah, why don't you just walk us through this slide, and we have one other slide which talk about some of the demographics here in Stoughton. Okay.
Okay, I can do that. So the slide that's up now is the town of Stoughton demographics, and this information was taken from the United States Census of the town of Stoughton that was dated year 2018. So population in 2018, 28,950, and that's an estimate as of July 1, 2018. That is a 7.2% increase since the census was taken in the year 2010. And you can see that 14.3% are African American alone, 4% Asian, 4.5% Hispanic, and then we go down 75.3% are white. Let's look at the gender. The gender for females, 51.8% are females in this town. 18.1% are over the age of 65. Veterans, about 1,500. We have high school levels, we have bachelor levels, but let's go down to the business because I've mentioned that before. 1,592 male-owned firms as of in year 2012, and 917 female-owned firms. And then income, that's very important. 78,343 is the median household income. And per capita income for the past 12 months is 35,777.
Well, so in terms, I just want to leave this up here just for a moment to let folks absorb. You've talked about a number of the demographics, and demographics are always helpful to give you a sense of where you are. So if you were to parrot and put this information up against some other towns, you will begin to see the types of comparisons in all of those particular categories. So it gives us a great snapshot as to there. And for me, there is a good reason why STIO should exist, because I would suspect that if we went back to the year 2000 census in terms of what was the makeup of this town, from the standpoint of racially, I don't think the numbers would have reflected that, because we're talking about here something like almost 22%. Minority in the town, and I would gather to say I came here in 1998, and I don't believe those were the numbers. So Stoughton is changing. So an STIO is so important to that. Now I know you also have. I want to bring up again. I want to go to another slide. This is the one in terms of the schools. Can you walk us through that, Deborah?
Oh yes, I can. Now this information is public knowledge, and it's from the 2019 data provided by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. So it's showing that roughly student enrollments, 3,500, African Americans make up 23.2%, Asian 6.2%, Hispanic 11.7%, Native American 0.1%, and then white 53.4%. And then we have the male and female, but let's also statistics. But let's go to the right side of the slide. This is staffing. So there are 5. That is not a percentage, that's just a count. 5.2, and so we have part-time workers, and that's where the 0.2 comes in. And that of African American, and that's from elementary school through high school. And then from Asians, 3.9, Hispanic, 2.6, Native American, 2.0, and white, 456.7. And the reason I wanted to bring up these statistics is that it's been shown that if a student is taught by someone in his own culture, there's a higher rate of success. Now, I have to say, all 3 of my kids went through the Stoughton Public School, and they have a very good curriculum. They were taught well, and they are very prepared. I'm just speaking on the area of if a student is taught by a person of his own demographics, then they have a higher rate of success.
Well, I know there's data. I mean, I constantly, I'm very much involved in what goes on in Boston, and that's clearly, I've read some of that literature and some of the data that's on that for sure. Now, I know that we wanted to talk about the demographics in terms of the hiring and all for the town, but you know I made an inquiry. The town doesn't have any data, which is, I hope that the town manager will, and the Board of Selectmen will make a change in that, because I think that it's illustrative. In terms of our town government, I don't even have, I can't even tell you the number of employees in their public safety or whatever, but I'm hopeful if the town manager watches this program that she and her team will take a look at this and provide this data as we go forward in 2020. But I think my time has run out on the computer, so I'm going to give to you, Teresa, one of the other slides that was going to be talked about, and well, we will talk about it, but one will not be able to see it, and that was, I believe it's the slide which talks about
Our initiatives?
your initiatives. Yes, if you can, if you, either one of you can have it. I'm trying to locate it on my hard copy.
Yeah.
But I have my hard copy out of order here. So if you could just give that, and either one of you can talk about what your initiatives are, and then you would eventually get to, I have it right here,
first of all,
future initiatives.
Well, one thing is we do want to welcome you all to our monthly meetings. Generally speaking, they are held the first Tuesday of the month. Right now, we are holding them at the local YMCA. But do join us on Facebook, because that's where we do, or give us your email and join our email list, so that way you can completely get the most current information. So it's usually the first Tuesday of the month. 6 o'clock is when we have our executive board, and that's usually open meeting, and then open to anybody. And then at 6:30, then our general membership.
So when is the next meeting? I know you say first Thursday. When's the next meeting, Teresa?
The first Tuesday of the month.
First Tuesday of the month?
Okay,
So we're talking about now for January?
Yeah, January.
Talking about January. I think it may be the 2nd. But that's
yeah,
okay.
So, which isn't going to happen the 2nd. So, which is why I really encourage you to try to join us on our email list, and to be kept informed, because we do send out monthly reminders and invitations.
Yep, and the first Tuesday of the month is January January 7th.
Okay.
January 7th.
And that would be at the YMCA, and then we do at those meetings. Then we do talk about like what are some things that we are concerned about. What are the things that we are going to be working on in the future. So that meeting in particular will probably be really focusing on the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King celebration, and making sure that everything is set up. And then in February, we'll be once again having a program at the Stoughton Library, and that'll be on Frederick Douglass, and also the women's suffrage movement. And actually, 2020 is a very important year, because that's when the 19th Amendment, the 100th year celebration of the 19th Amendment, where women got the right to vote. So, yay on that.
Yay.
So we're going to be, and we're hoping that we'll be doing some collaboration with the public library as well, to do even more events that are celebrating the 19th Amendment.
And an interesting part, if I could just add, in terms of this year, 2019, was the 400th year of blacks coming to America as well. And I know there have been a number of celebrations that have been going on. I know in Boston we had a number of them commemorating that in terms of the Middle Passage and coming to to America. And so, and they had a number of activities that were geared around that. And then, of course, we have what I'm going to euphemistically call the John Conyers Amendment that has been discussed around the question of reparations is now
Right. Yeah.
for a study committee that's going through. So this whole question of trying to shape the racial climate in our nation, and as you're doing here in Stoughton, is definitely applauded, because it is this is the conversation that's going on right now. And if I'm not going to get into the politics of today, but the divisiveness that is being expressed at the present time is quite disturbing to me, being an outgrowth of and a beneficiary of the civil rights movement. I find it very disheartening, the conversation and the antics that are going on now. So we have a lot to work on in 2020, and both, yes, the commemoration of the 19th Amendment was so important. If folks don't understand that it took an amendment for women to get the right to vote. It took the Voting Rights Act of 1965 to get blacks the right to vote. So, you know, we're not talking about a whole bunch of time here.
Right.
Where things
That's
have been
right.
in existence. So we have much more to do, and I'm glad to see SDIO is in the forefront of that here in Stoughton.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So every month we will be doing some kind of event, and you know, and also looking at like how else can we bring our community, which is bringing our community together to one of our saying that we adopted is all are welcome, and we really believe in that strongly, and that's going to be our driving force throughout the year. All are welcome.
Okay, why don't you just, because our time is running out, if we can just go through the listing. I know that you want to work with you want a first-time homeowners seminar, you want to work with some of the local financial institutions to assist with small business loans, and you want to continue to support the schools, public safety, and town hall to increase minority representation.
Yes.
And those are some of your forward-thinking and plans to do in the future. But I don't want the folks to leave here and not to put the emphasis on, once again, and just in summarizing for what you do, Deborah, I'd like you to talk about how can one join SDIO? You know, so I know it's on this sheet here and here. Take it, so you won't have to go. How can they join? Tell them how they can join SDIO.
Well, you can attend our meetings, which are, like we said, the first Tuesday of the month. And we have our meetings starting at 6 p.m. at the Old Colony YMCA. You can outreach to either Teresa or myself via our Facebook page, and that is at Stoughton Diversity Inclusion, or our email address, stoughtondiversity@gmail.com. And we would like to increase our membership. This is a very important movement that we have, and we have a lot of things planned to do.
Well, I'm going to take the liberties, to commend both you, Teresa, and your fellow members. I've had the pleasure of attending both of your major events, your Martin Luther King events. I'm looking forward to attending this year on Monday, January 20th. That's the day we celebrate Dr. King's birthday, even though his birthday is on January 15th. And as Teresa said earlier, it's going to be starting at 10:30 at Immaculate Conception. If the weather is not inclement, there'll be a peace walk to the Stoughton High School for a program that'll start at 11:30, and then a program with a keynote speaker, which will be my good friend and former Boston branch NAACP President Michael Curry, which starts at noon. So I want to let you see, I was paying attention.
Yes.
Yeah, very good, yeah.
Paying attention to what you say, and I hope for you, the viewing audience, are doing the same. But I would be remiss if I didn't, this is my last program for the year, not my last program. Roy can't get rid of me, and not at this stage. I'll be back in 2020, folks. Hopefully I'll be rid of this cold by then. But I really want to, thank the folks who really helped to make this program happen. Michael Hammond, who is the station manager here. My good friend Jeffrey Pickett, he has now moved on to University of Lowell for a position there, but I'm still going to say thank you to him. Maybe he'll come back and do the election programs with me, but if not, maybe C.J. Mullen, who is here, may do it. My good friend Leo McGowan, who used to take care of the camera here for me and has been convalescing. Leo, want to wish you well. Dave Young. Dave is just extraordinary. Beside doing the bloopers where he catches me on things, he is very instrumental in making sure that the programs, we do the editing. Of course, he doesn't need to do it for Community Forum, but for the other programs, he does the editing. He's helpful in terms of the camera, does many of the things that we do out of studio shots, the live shots as well. And Frank Walsh, who is pitched in to, he has his own programs, but he is pitched in here to help on the program, as well as a volunteer, Lorene Kubek and Ellen Pennyman, where they're being trained by Roy to do his job, so he better be careful. They may move him out. And of course, last but not least, the executive producer, Roy Cohen, who enticed me to come here some 4 to 5 years ago to be a host on the program, and it's been a love fest ever since. I want to thank Roy. But to our viewing audience, this is the holiday season. We've come to the end of the year. We all celebrate this holiday season differently, and so I want to wish you in all the ways that I'm familiar with how one celebrates it. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, Feliz Navidad, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy New Year. And last but not least, I said I was going to mention my person to my right, Deborah Roberts, is running for selectman, and I want folks to pay attention to her campaign. I know her nomination papers are in, so Deborah, all the best in your candidacy for the selectman.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you and Teresa for joining me today. This has been a most informative program, and I wish SDIO much success 2020 and into the future.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you so much, Joseph.